Chapter 9, verse number?
First one.
We are going to start the chapter, right?
Yes, yes.
So, Kunti Madam, passing away of Bhishma Pitama. We have not started this? I think we have started.
We have started it.
Yeah.
We were reading the big purpose.
I want to see how much conscious you are. Which verse? Please read about all the munis.
Eighth verse. Eighth verse onwards.
We have read that also. We have read that verse also. 8th verse also we have read. That is why you should do revision. We read about Kashyap Muni, we read about Angarish Muni, Sukadev Goswami. After the class is over, we should actually go through the verses again. It will become a revision. So it is 9.9 today. Tan sametan mahabhagan upalabhya vasuttamah pujayamas dharmagya deshakala vibhagavet. Tan, all of them, sametan, assembled together, mahabhagan. All greatly powerful people, upalabhya, they having received vasuttama, the best among the Vasus, Bhishma Deva, Pujayam, Asa, welcome. Dharmagya, one who knows religious principles, Desha, place, Kala, time. Vibhagavit, one who knows the adjustment of place and time. So Bhishma Deva, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, he received them. Upalabhya means received them. Pujayamasa, welcomed all the great and powerful rishis. One can say, how did he welcome? He was lying on the bed of arrows. You can have the gesture also. He cannot even fold the hands to do namaskar. But the gestures and the mudras, very important. So then he welcomed them, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. Any great personality comes, the first thing is you should welcome them very nicely. Mute your phone, Gadadhar Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Mute your phone. So in this way, the Bhishma Pitama, he knew the religious principles. The same way somebody comes to your house, especially rishis, great sages, devotees, you should know how to welcome them. So Bhishma Pitama knew according to time and place how to welcome the great rishis who had come there. Okay. Krishna Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Dandat Pranam Mataji. Tan sametan mahabhaga bhaganupalambhya vasuttamaha pujayamasa dharmagno desakala vibhagavit. Translation and
Your voice is breaking. Who was the best among us? Your voice is breaking. You keep your video off. Your connectivity will come. Keep your video off and read. Yeah, read properly.
Bhishma Deva, who was the best among us the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there. For he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. Purport. Expert religionists know perfectly well how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. All the great acharyas or religious preachers or reformers of the world executed their mission by adjustment of religious principles in terms of time and place. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world, and if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of the time and place. Bhishma Deva was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service, and therefore he could receive and welcome all the powerful sages assembled there at his deathbed from all parts of the universe. He was certainly unable at that time of welcome and receive them physically, because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition, but he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words, and he knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although physically unfit. Hare Krishna.
So he was physically unfit, but still he knew how to welcome the people. It is like mind. Your mind is in favor of the guest, then automatically your actions also will be there. So mind should be always kept with the religious principles. Mind should always favor the religious principles. Then Krishnam chatat prabhavagya asinam jagadishwaram hridistham pujayamasa mayayo patta vigraham. Now Krishna Prabhavagya, he is the knower of the glories. The thought of him, the knower of the glories, Bhishma, Asinam, sitting, Jagadishwaram, the Lord of the universe, Hridistham, situated in the heart, Pujayamasa, worship Maya by internal potency, Upata, manifested, Vigraham, a form. So Lord is situated in everyone's heart. That is given. Asinam Jagadishwara, Hridistham. And then yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Deva. And since Bhishma Deva knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly. Prabhavagya, Bhishma knew the glories of Lord. That is how Lord, who is seated before him, is Jagadishwara, is Paramatma, who is seated in everyone's heart. Now Lord is sitting before Bhishma Deva, and Bhishma Deva is glorifying the Lord because he knew the glories of Lord. Okay. Vasalani Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thanks for the service. Krishnam cha tatta prabhavagya asinam jagate ishwaram hridhi stham pujayam asa mayayo
Hridistham.
pata
Hridistham.
hridhistham 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 pujayam asa mayaya yo pata vigraham.
Read the verses properly. Krishnam cha tat prabhavakya asinam jagadishwaram hridistham pujayamasa mayayo patta vigraham.
Krishnam cha tat mayayo pata vigraham.
Patta. The ta is
Mayayo pata vigraham. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Lord Shri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Deva, and since Bhishma Deva knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly. Purport. The Lord, Lord's, op, Lord's omnipotency is displayed by his simultaneous presence in every place. He is present always in his eternal abode Golok Vrindavan, and still he is present in everyone's heart. And even within every invisible atom. When he manifests his eternal transcendental form in the material world, he does so by his internal potency. The external potency or the material energy has nothing to do with his eternal form. All these truths were known to Sri Bhishma Deva, who worshipped him accordingly. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah. पाण्डुपुत्रान् उपासीनान् रशय प्रेम सङ्गतान् अभयाचाष्टानुरागाश्रये अन्धीभूतेन चक्षुषा पाण्डुपुत्रान् उपासीनान् प्रश्रय प्रेम सङ्गतान् अभयाचष्टानुरागाश्रये अंधीभूतेन चक्षुषा. So Pandu, the late father of Maharaj Yudhishthira and his brothers, Putran, the sons of Upasinan, sitting silently nearby, Prashraya, being overtaken, Prema, in feelings of love, Sangatam, having gathered, Abhaya Chashta, congratulated, Anuraga, feeling, Ashray, for tears of ecstasy, Andiputena, overwhelmed Chakshusha with his eyes. So the sons of Pandu, they were sitting nearby and they were overtaken with affection for the dying grandfather. Bhishma Deva congratulated them with feeling because he was so happy to see Yudhishthira Maharaj as the king, which he really desired. So he had tears of ecstasy in his eyes because he was so overwhelmed with love and affection. Bhishma Deva, just for social purposes, was on the side of Duryodhana, but his heart was with Yudhishthira and the other brothers, Pandavas. He wanted Yudhishthira Maharaj to be the king. It is a divine arrangement why Bhishma Deva is on the side of the Kauravas. Because it's the eternal desire of Bhishma to see the Parthasari face Swarupa of Krishna. That's the only reason why Bhishma is there on the other side of Pandava. It's the eternal reason. And then he's just fulfilling his vow to be on their side. But within his heart, he always wanted Yudhishthira to become the king. Okay. So when he sees Yudhishthira, the king, he is in ecstasy. The tears are there in his eyes, extra tears of ecstasy. Okay, Bimla, read.
Hare Krishna. Panduputranupasinam Vashraya Prema Sangatan Abhyachashta Nuragashri Then Andhi Bhutena Chakshusha. Translation. The sons of Maharaja Pandu were sitting silently nearby, overtaken with affection for their dying grandfather. Seeing this, Bhishma Dev congratulated them with feeling. There were tears of ecstasy in his eyes, for he was overwhelmed by love and affection. Purport. When Maharaja Pandu died, his sons were all small children, and naturally they were brought up under the affection of elderly members of the royal family, especially by Bhishma Dev. Later on, when the Pandavas were grown up, they were cheated by cunning Duryodhana and company, and Bhishma Dev, although he knew that the Pandavas were innocent and were unnecessarily put into trouble, could not take the side of the Pandavas for political reasons. At the last stage of his life, when Bhishma Deva saw his most exalted grandsons, headed by Maharaja Yudhishthira, sitting very gently at his side, the great warrior grandfather could not check his loving tears, which were automatically flowing from his eyes. He remembered the great tribulation suffered by his most pious grandsons. Certainly, he was the most satisfied man because of Yudhishthir's being enthroned in place of Duryodhan, and thus he began to congratulate them. Hare Krishna.
Next. अहो कष्टमहो न्याच्याम् यद्यूयं धर्मनन्दनाः जीवितुं नार्हत क्लिष्टं विप्रधर्माच्युताश्रयाः अहो कष्टम् अहो न्यायम् यद्यूयं धर्मनन्दनः जीवितुं नार्हत क्लिष्टं विप्रधर्माच्युताश्रयाः. Bhishmadeva said, Aho, oh, Kashtam, what terrible sufferings. Aho, again, oh, Anyayam, 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 Anyay kar diya. Terrific injustice, terrible injustice, Anyayam. Yet, because you, all of you, good souls, Dharmanandana, the sons of religion personified, Jeevitum, to remain alive, none ever, Arhataha, deserve, Klishtam suffering, Vipra Brahmanas, Dharma, piety, Achyuta God, Ashreha, being protected by. So what terrible suffering, terrible injustice you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under these tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God, and religion. The sufferings which the Kauravas had given were so horrible. But still, because Dharma Rakshitaha, this one is proverb, Dharmasya Rakshitaha. If you protect the religion, Dharma Dharmo Rakshati Dharma.
Dharmo Rakshate Rakshitaha.
Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha.
Rakshitaha.
Rakshita. Dharmo Rakshati, you protect religion, Rakshitaha, the religion protects you. If you are on the side of the religious principles, automatically Brahmanas, Lord, and the religion will protect you. So though there was so much of tribulation, so much of suffering, so anyaya, injustices were there, but because you are standing on the path of religion, the religion has protected you. Achyutaha, Dharmaha, Vipraha. Brahmana is one who follows the religious principles. Lord is one who is the source of religious principles. He gives the religious principles. And Brahmanas protect the religious principles. So naturally, one who stands for the religious principles, Lord, Brahmanas, and the Dharma itself will protect. Okay. Adi Satwiki Mataji. Unmute yourself. Unmute. I think something wrong. Okay, Gadadhar Prabhu, read.
Hare Krishna Mataji Dandatnam. Aho kashtam aho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandana jeevitam narhata klistam vipra dharmacyutashrayah. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhishmana said, oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustice you good souls suffer from being the sons of religious personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God, and religion. Purport. Maharaja Yudhishthira was disturbed due to the great massacre in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Bhishma Deva could understand this. Therefore, he spoke first of the terrible sufferings of Maharaja Yudhishthira. He was put into difficulty by injustice only, and the battle of Kurukshetra was fought just to counteract this injustice. Therefore, he should not regret the great massacre. He wanted to point out particularly that they were always protected by the Brahmanas, the Lord, and the religious principles. As long as they were protected by these three important items, there was no cause of disappointment. Thus, Bhismadeva encouraged Maharaj Yudhishthira to dissipate his despondency. As long as a person is fully in cooperation with the wishes of the Lord, guided by the bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and strictly following religious principles, one has no cause for despondency. However, trying the circumstances of life, Bhishmadeva, as one of the authorities of the line, wanted to impress the point upon the Pandavas.
This
Correct.
point upon the Pandavas.
Thank you, Mataji.
Beautiful. Samsite tirathe Pandav Prithavala Prajavaduhu Yushmat Krute Bahun Kleshan Prapta Tokavati Muhu. Samsite, after the demise, Atirathe, of the great general Pandu, Pritha, Kunti, Bala Praja, having young children, Vadhu, my daughter-in-law, Yusmat Krute, on your account, Bahun, multifarious, Kleshan, afflictions, Prapta, underwent, Tokavati, in spite of Tokavati, in spite of having grown up boys, Muhu constantly. Adi Satviki Mataji, mute your phone. Samsite, after the demise of the great General Pandu, Kunti Maharani with her children. Now she is a widow. She with many children. She suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. When you were small, that time also she suffered. When you grew up, again she suffered. Because of your actions. Now, whatever the actions, Kunti Maharani had to suffer so much. Okay. Now, Adi Satviki Mataji, unmute and read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, sorry, there was a problem. Me tapping. Hare Krishna. Sloka 13. Sangsthite hatirate Pandau pritha balo prajabadhu Yusmat krite bahun kleshan Prapta tokavati muhu.
Tokavati.
Tokavati muhu. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. Purport: the sufferings of Kunti Devi are doubly lamented. She suffered greatly because of early widowhood and to get her minor children brought up in the royal family. And when her children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So her sufferings continued. This means that she was destined to suffer by providence, and this one has to tolerate without being disturbed. Much.
In her destination, suffering is there, was there. But somehow she tolerated the sufferings that has been given. Okay. Next. सर्वं कालकृतं मन्ये भवतां च यदप्रियं सपालो यद्वशं लोको वायोरिव घनावलिः घनावलिः सर्वं कालकृतं मन्ये. All this kalakrutam done by inevitable time, manye, I think. Bhavatam cha, for you also, yet whatever, apriyam. Stable, sapalam, with the rulers. Yad vashe, under the control of the time, loka, everyone in every planet. Vayu, the wind carries, eva as, ghana, avalihi, the line of clouds. So what can be this opinion? Is past karmas? No, but we are all parshadas. How the past karmas can affect them? It is time, influence of time. The time is not good, then nothing can be done. We cannot control the time. So it's all due to inevitable time under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as a cloud are carried by the wind. So the time, because of the time, has happened. It is not their previous life or something like that. No, they were all good souls. And then there are also Parshadas of Krishna. Then how is it that they have suffered? Again, this is a Leela. But now Bhishma Pitama says, it is the influence of time. So sometimes if the time is favorable, everything will happen very nicely. Time is not favorable. So one has to wait for the time to go. If the time you wait for the time to go, anyhow, the days are not going to be the same. So in one place, you will be criticized so much. Let the time go. And sometimes the same people will glorify. So one should not be disturbed. So all these leelas are to make conditioned souls like us to understand that just tolerate the situations and do the spiritual activity what has been given to us. Whatever, according to Varnashrama, whatever Arthika, Paramarthika duties, one just has to do that. Okay. Narayana, read.
हरे श्री माता जी. सर्वकालकृतं मन्ये भवतां च यदप्रियं सपालो यद्वशे लोको वायोरिव घनावलिः. Purport and translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In my opinion, this is all due to the inevitable time under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. Purport: there is control by time all over the space within the universe, as there is control by time all over the planets. All the big gigantic planets, including the sun, are being controlled by the force of air, as the clouds are carried by the force of air. Similarly, the inevitable kala or time controls even the action of the air and other elements. Everything, therefore, is controlled by the supreme kala, a forceful representative of the Lord within the material world. Thus, Yudhishthira should not be sorry for the inconceivable action of time. Everyone has to bear the actions and reactions of time as long as one is within the conditions of the material world. Yudhishthira should not think that he had committed sins in his previous birth and is suffering the consequence. Even the most pious has to suffer the condition of material nature. But a pious man is faithful to the Lord, for he is guided by the bona fide Brahmana and Vaishnava, following the religious principles. These three guiding principles should be the aim of life. One should not be disturbed by the tricks of eternal time. Even the great controller of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. Therefore, one should not grudge being thus controlled by time, despite being a true follower of religious principles. Hare Krishna.
Next. Yatra dharma suto raja gadapani vrukodaraha Krishno strigandivam chapam sruhat krishnas tato vipat Yatra dharmo suto raja gadapani vrukodaraha Krishno strigandivam chapam sruhat krishnas tato vipat Yatra, where there is Dharma Sutaha, the son of Dharmaraj, Raja, the king, Gada Pani, with his mighty club in hand, Drukodara, Bhishma, Krishna, Arjun, Astri, carrier of the weapon, Gandivam, Gandiva, Chapam, bow, Suhat, well-wisher, Krishna, Lord Krishna, the personality of God, that thereof, Vipat, reverse. So now here, Bhishma Pitama is explaining the influence of inevitable time. How wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses? In the presence of King Yudhishthir, the son of demigod controlling religion, Bhima, the great fighter with the club, a great bowman, Arjun, with his mighty weapon Gandhi, and above all, the Lord, the well-wisher of the Pandavas. So it is irreversible. It has been given. So the influence of the time. So now see how all are standing before me. How the reverses happened. At one time they were put in such miserable condition. Now they are all standing. Okay. In one place it is said here, the Pandavas suffered so many practical reverses because of the time. The reverses here refers to sometimes the days are very good, sometimes the day is very horrible. So Kala is Lord. Influence of Kala indicates Lord's wish himself. Time is very, you cannot control the time. Time is inevitable. Time cannot be controlled. So it is Krishna's wish. Practically time is Krishna. It is Krishna's wish. There Sagat Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Yatra dharma sutta raja kadapani rikodaraha Krishna stri kandivam chapam suhrit Krishna stato vipat. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthira, the son of the demigod, controlling religion? Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon, Gandiva, and above all, the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. Purport. As far as the material and spiritual resources were required, there was no scarcity in the case of the Pandavas. Materially, they were well equipped because two great warriors, namely Bhima and Arjuna, were there. Spiritually, the king himself was the symbol of religion, and above all of them, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, was personally concerned with their affairs as the well-wisher. And yet there were so many reverses on the side of Pandavas. Despite the power of pious acts, the power of personalities, the power of expert management, and the power of weapons under the direct supervision of Lord Krishna, the Pandavas suffered so many practical reverses which can only be explained as due to the influence of Kala, inevitable time. Kala is identical with the Lord himself, and therefore the influence of Kala indicates the inexplicable wish of the Lord himself. There is nothing to be lamented when a matter is beyond the control of any human being. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So no one can control the time. Everyone is controlled by the time. So reverses happens. Then next. नयस्य कर्हिचिद्राजन् पुमान् वेद विदित्सितं यद्विजिज्ञासया युक्ता मुह्यन्ति कवयोऽपि सिः न यस्य कर्हिचित् राजन् पुमान् वेद विदित्सितां यद्विजिज्ञासया युक्ता मुह्यन्ति कवयोऽपि न never he certainly asya his karhichit whatsoever rajan O king puman anyone veda knows viditsitam plan with which vijigyasya with exhaustive inquiries yukta being engaged muyanti bewildered kavaya great philosophers api even he certainly. So no one can know his plan viditsitam. Krishna's plan can be known by no one. Nobody can know Krishna's plan. Even though great philosophers inquire inexhaustibly or exhaustively, they are bewildered. So no one can know Krishna's plan. That is what Bhishma Pitamaha speaks. Why there were so many reverses, why you were suffering, how you were put as a king, how you are now ruling the kingdom. Very difficult to understand. Okay. Shumur, can you read?
Yes.
Read.
नाह्यस्य कर्हिचिद्राजन् पुमान् वेद विधित्सितं यद्विजिज्ञासया युक्ता मुह्यन्ति कवयो अपि हि. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. The bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhishthir over his past sinful acts and the resultant sufferings, etc., is completely negated by the great authority Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhishthira that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So, what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The sufferings of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhishthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Next. Last second. तस्मादिदं दैवतन्त्रं व्यवस्य भरतर्षभ तस्यानुविहितो नाथ पाहि प्रजाप्रभो. Tasma, therefore, idam this Daivatantram, enchantment of providence only, Vyavasyaha, ascertaining, Bharata Rishabha, who best among the descendant of Bharat, Tasya by him, Anuvitaha, as desired, Anataha, helpless, Nath, O master, Pahi, just take care of, Pragya, of the subjects, Prabhu, O Lord. Now, O best among the descendants of Bharat, Yudhishthira, I maintain, therefore, that all this is within, I maintain, therefore, that all this is within the plan of the Lord. So I'm maintaining this statement. Everything happened because of the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. Yudhishthira Maharaj is in complete confusion, which Arjuna was before the starting of the war. Now here Yudhishthira Maharaj considers himself the culprit. He thinks that just because I wanted the kingdom, I massacred so many people. Now here, Krishna wanted Bhishma Deva to give the knowledge. So first thing what he spoke to Yudhishthira is, I maintain the statement. Whatever happens, that is the will of the Lord. And Krishna wants you to take care of all those subjects who are helpless. Just follow whatever Lord has planned for us. So, because to accept the kingdom, to accept the throne, Yudhishthira Maharaj was reluctant. In fact, he was crying. A crying king cannot rule the subject. A confident king only can rule the subject. What one needs is a confidence. Anything you speak. The confidence is there, then a person can do the things which are very difficult to be done also. Again, the confidence also should be within the religious principles. You cannot cross the religious principles and be enthusiastic. No, it should be within the religious principles. So here he says that whatever Krishna has planned, just accept it, and you're appointed the administrative head. So now rule the kingdom very nicely. Okay. Anupama is there? Read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. Tasmat idam deva tantram vyavasa bharat.
Daya Sagar Prabhu, you read the words, she read the purpose. Wait.
Tasmadidam Daivatantram Yavasya Bharatarshabha Tasya Nuvihito Natha Hathi Praja Prabhu.
Yeah, read.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O best among the descendants of Bharat, Yudhishthira, I maintain therefore that all this within a plan of the Lord, accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord. You must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head. And my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. Purport. The popular saying is that a housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. Similarly, the Lord teaches the word by teaching the devotee. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. Whenever, therefore, a show is made to teach the devotee, as in the case of teachings of Bhagavad Gita, it is for teaching the less intelligent men. A devotee's duty, therefore, is to ungrudgingly accepted tribulations from the Lord as a benediction. The Pandavas were advised by Bhishma Deva to accept the responsibility of administration without hesitation. The poor subjects were without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra, and they were awaiting the assumption of power by Maharaja Yudhishthira. A pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulation as favor from the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no mundane difference between the two. Hare Krishna.
Ungrudgingly. There are some grudges, but there were no grudges on the side of Pandavas. Ungrudgingly, they just accepted. So that is the Lakshana of a pure devotee. He's just inclined to serve Krishna. Whatever happens, reverses, whatever tribulations people may case, con you, they may criticize you, they may trouble you. But if you are bent upon serving your spiritual master and Krishna, you will be always on the path, in spite of so many difficulties, ungrudgingly. Okay, so Bhagavatam actually teaches us how to progress in devotional service. So here we'll start. There are 49 verses in this chapter. We are yet to do 32. So I think 4 classes are enough to complete our subject. Then after 2 weeks, we'll have examination on 7, 8, 9. Because we have practically how many chapters in this? We have 19 chapters. Still 10 chapters has to go. So we'll be doing within the fast track. Exams after 10 days complete. So it's why go on studying. Just don't keep it till the last. Go on studying. 7, 8, 9, 3 chapters only I'm taking. I'm not taking 6 chapters. Just taking, I have just 2% battery. So keep the questions for the whole for the next class. Okay. So Thursday will be the next class. Vasandani, you have doubt? I think the next class you can answer.
Can I ask a question?
2% I have battery, I don't know.
In verse 1.9.13, Bhishma Deva is explaining them that Kunti also suffered because of actions of Pandavas.
Yeah.
How do we understand that? Because actions of Pandavas were actually reactions to the actions of
Who lost their wives in the gambling match? They only lost, no? Who kept them? So who kept the wife on the gambling match? They only kept them. The actions. Who insulted Duryodhana? It was Kunti who insulted. Oh, it was Draupadi who insulted Duryodhana. There's so many reactions happened.
So this is referring only to those, gambling aspect.
So many are there.
All others are reaction to Duryodhana.
Yeah, reactions, whatever. But suffering, who did?
No, suffering they did.
Kunti Maharani suffered, na? Kunti Maharani suffered a lot. When they grew up also, she suffered. When they were small also, she suffered. And they grew up also, she suffered. whatever it may be. They may be right, they may be wrong. That is not the question here. Main is the Marani suffer. Okay, Vimla.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Suffering is not due to sins committed in the previous birth. Everything
Not
is
for the Pandavas, not for the Pandavas. For conditioned souls like us. Not for the Pandavas. They are Parshadas of Krishna. So at that time, Krishna shows the power of time and the tolerance of the devotees. Okay.
If everything is controlled by Kal, what does
Kal
it
is
mean?
Krishna.
Time is favorable.
Everything is controlled by time. Even for the conditioned souls, one has to patiently wait till the time goes. And for the because of the time, the suffering is there. That is again because of the karmas only for the conditions. And the time goes, then the suffering also reduces. One has to be very patient during that time and understand it's only because of my own karmas we are suffering. We cannot jump up and down. So time again. It's in a period of time. The suffering side.
What is the difference between the two? Everything is controlled by Kal and suffering is not.
Everything is controlled by time only. Even the sufferings because of the previous lifetime. Again, during that particular time, time only. Sufferings also come in particular time. Again, that is controlled by time. And if a person utilizes the time and chants, the aprar of the karmas also vanishes. So in this way, he can do reverses by his own chanting processes. He can utilize the time. If it's suffering also, he can utilize the time and chant.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.